Hello out there, and in front of you today is the newly released Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight, and today I wanted to take just a few minutes to bring it next to the regular Sage 5, which is up here, do a little bit of a comparison, show some of the subtle differences between the two, one of the very big differences, which is the obvious one between the two, and yeah, and then just talk about the knife overall and just my thoughts on where it has a place in the community and if it has a permanent place in my collection and just my general feelings on it. And for those of you who aren't aware, the Sage 5 is one of my favorite models, period. I mean, this is the knife right here that started this channel, this YouTube channel a few years ago when I first picked that knife up, and it's just been a model for me that has been so good. It does absolutely everything. It's a great EDC, super classy looking though, versatile in that it is very good to cut with, and a great looking knife as well, fun to fidget with. I mean, everything that I could want a knife to be, this really exemplifies that. And so, yeah, I was excited to hear that they were coming out with a lightweight version, but I was also realistic in that I didn't expect to like it even remotely on the level as the original, because like, how could I, FRN versus the G10 carbon fiber laminate. So what I want to do real quickly is just go through the few differences that I've seen between these two knives, and then just try to judge the lightweight version on its own merits real quickly before we get back into a discussion aspect of the whole model and what it's about. All right, so when we're looking at these, I mean, these two knives are virtually identical in design, which they should be. It's the same thing, right? But when we're looking at the hardware, we're looking at the clip, we're looking at the lines, we're looking at the, where everything is located and how it's done. Everything is essentially identical. Even on the inside, we have nested liners on both of these knives. The interior milling is done in exactly the same way. All right, so really what it seemed like to me when I first saw it was, all right, we just took these scales off and put these scales on, and we're done. And when we're talking about the lightweight aspect, if that's really what happened, and it seems like it is, then we're not really cutting that much weight. So my buddy Slicey Dicey got the lightweight version before I did. He got it a week or so ago, and I was asking him about it, and he goes, well, it really isn't that light. And if you're not watching his videos, you should definitely check him out. Slicey Dicey, a really good guy, one of the best reviewers on YouTube, without a doubt. But yeah, he said it really isn't that light. And if we look at the original 3.13 or 3.12 ounces, and the lightweight version is only about a 1/4 ounce lighter. So you're not really saving that much weight. If you're someone who counts ounces that much, then maybe this will be a big thing for you. But when I think about lightweight models, I think about ones where, the original model is a hefty one. The Manix 2 here has a lightweight version that is, I think, right around 3 ounces. And this one is 4.25. You have this distinct difference in weight because of how, thick your liners are and everything that you have going on. With the Sage series here, it really isn't that big of a thing because the first Sage isn't a heavy knife. I thought the same thing about the Para 3. The Para 3 is not a heavy knife, so you've got this lightweight version, sure, that cuts weight, but it's not really cutting that much weight because there isn't much weight to cut. That is one of the differences, though, and I mean, if we look at these scales, that is the distinct difference. One of my big disappointments, actually, when I unboxed the lightweight version was I hadn't really paid too much attention to the photos, and I was hoping that this FRN would be gray the way that it was on the lightweight Chaparral, which is also made in Taiwan, because that could have been RIT dyed and I would have had a purple knife in no time and it would have been awesome. But it's not. It's black. I do like this bi-directional texturing. I think that's what it's called, where it just sort of transitions, and so there's no sharpness, but you have just a myriad of points of contact. And it's a very comfortable way to have a knife in hand. If I'm getting FRN, I want it to be like this. I like the Delica, but yeah, when I got the FRN Chaparral in hand for the first time, I knew that it was my favorite FRN. And yeah, I just like this stuff a little bit more, just the way that it's done. All right, so we have that. The only other differences that I'm even aware of, and I'll try to focus. It's the jimping. So the jimping is like significantly different, and you can actually probably see my original Sage 5 on top here. It's just a little bit more shallow and rounded, and it's a lot more pronounced and deep on the lightweight version. So you can really get a better purchase and a little bit more traction when you're like digging in like this. Mine, not so much on the regular Sage 5. Now that said, Spyderco does do that constant quality improvement, and this is one of the first Sage 5s, like period. So who knows, maybe the other Sage 5s have gotten better when it comes to the jimping over time as well. I would actually sort of expect that. So you can't like put too much stock into that kind of comparison, but it is certainly noticeable on these two examples of the models. There's that at least. And then the last thing that I've read was different is that there's an upgrade in the pivot. And so I don't know if it's a bush pivot. I'm not exactly 100% sure, but the big takeaway is that the lightweight version is just stupid smooth. Stupid smooth. Yeah, and it is. And every video that I've seen of it, everybody that I've known who's had one has had a very smooth knife. And yeah, that's really good. But what I have to say is that my regular Sage 5 is pretty darn smooth too. It likes to drop shut. It's not really that big of an improvement or anything. It's just a smooth FRN compression lock, which is a really good thing because the pair of 3s that I had a couple of them. I think I had 2 or 3 of them, and they didn't all drop shut this nicely out of box, that's for sure. So there is some consistency here with that is definitely appealing. So if we're taking a look at this knife just on its own and imagining for a second that the regular Sage 5, the first one, never existed, how would I rate this knife and what would I think of it? If that were the case, looking at this, $122 S30V, Taiwan made, really good quality, even though, we are talking about a little bit more budget, I guess, material in the FRN. I would call this knife a home run. Absolutely. I would say that this is an excellent offering from Spyderco because, it is. And we can't be objective in that way that we just forget about the first Sage. But if we could, we'd be seeing this design for the first time or in this platform, I guess, because it has been out in a number of different variations over time. But if it were brand new, yeah, it'd be an absolute home run. Come on. Just look at it. It's a beauty. It's a great design. They haven't screwed anything up on it at all. I think the price point is very, very fair. And once we lose that objectivity that we're pretending to have and we bring back the regular Sage 5 and we do this price comparison, so $122 I think is the lightweight version versus $152, which you can find this one at. It's really hard to not buy into this lightweight aspect of it, because if you're someone who just wants the Sage design, you're getting the same steel. There's no downgrade from the original to the lightweight, and it's a $30 difference. So, how good is this scale for you versus, the FRN? And that is a big talking point because I know there are a lot of people, I'm not one of them, there are a lot of people though who do not love the G10 and carbon fiber laminate that is on a lot of the Taiwan models like the Sage 5 here. There are people who just aren't a fan of that. I think the Smock has it, and the Akuchi, a couple of the current knives from Spyderco that I really like so much. Let's see if I can find one of them real quick. Yeah, so the Smock is still rocking that, so a lot of people just aren't the biggest fans. And I get that. And so if you're one of those people and you're going to pick out a Sage 5, or you're looking for a knife and now it's sort of opening a door for you at $30 less, same steel. I like that. I really like that decision. And it's been a surprise for me because of the Para 3 lightweight and how I just wasn't, even though I was impressed with it, it just wasn't anything new for me. It didn't do all that much for me. You know, and I mean, having it so much cheaper, I'm talking about the Para 3 lightweight, having it so much cheaper than the original was great, you know, and having it in a somewhat lesser steel, more budget friendly, going that route, it made sense. But I don't know, it just didn't do for me what I wanted it to. And I think one of the things that just really jumped out at me with the Sage 5 was that this material, as much as I like it, if you're just like fondling the knife and holding it, messing around with it, you get a certain feel for it. It feels good in the hand, don't get me wrong. You know, it's good. But let's say you put it down and then you pick up the lightweight version, you get this like, oh, moment. You get this moment where you're like, all right, because all of a sudden you have this kind of texturing jumping out at you. It feels better in the hand. It just does. You know, it doesn't mean it's more expensive. It doesn't mean it's classier looking, because honestly, I don't think that it is. But it does have something that the regular Sage 5 doesn't. And that, for me, is the big difference between this versus the regular Sage 5 when you compare that to like the Para 3 lightweight versus the regular Para 3. Because the regular Para 3 has that Peel Ply G10, super grippy, great kind of ergonomic feel in the hand. And the Para 3 lightweight with that FRN, it's fine, it's good, but it doesn't have that like distinct difference. It doesn't jump out at you versus the regular Para 3, because the regular Para 3 scales are already very grippy. So there is that going for it with this Sage 5 lightweight, that it is just different in that regard, and it has this added kind of feel that the original doesn't. And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting to be surprised, you know, to have, I don't know, just a different level of comfort with this model. And so I'm happy about that. I'm really happy. And yeah, I think that as far as the budget aspect of it goes and the price point, I think it's fair. And I think what we have is just another good option. And I was I was really ready to make a video about how underwhelmed I was and how I wasn't going to keep this one in my collection, and it just didn't make sense to me and yada yada, because I just didn't get it until I actually had the knife. And now, I don't know, I sort of get it, and I'm happy about that, and I'm happy that Spyderco went the way that they did. I really would have liked to have seen it in that gray so that I could have messed with it and tweaked it a little bit. But overall, guys, I think that what we have is a pretty darn good knife here. And it's one that maybe if other people see it the way that I do, it really might just end up having a home. You know, and I think if you're someone who is a collector, or if you're someone who's going to end up with both of them, I'd be willing to bet that you might end up putting this one in your pocket a little bit more than the regular Sage 5. And we're going to see how that goes with me, because, again, there's just a couple small differences, but those differences could make a world of difference, you know, just even as small as they are, it might really just make a difference. So anyway, guys, that's what I got. Any questions, comments, complaints, suggestions, let me know down below. I really appreciate you watching. Let me know your take. What do you think about this lightweight like craze that's coming out when they're pushing these new models? What do you think the next one should be? Should they extend it? Maybe do a lightweight smock. I just brought that knife out. Is that something that would be interesting? Is that something that could sell? Let me know. All right, and I'll talk with you soon. Thanks very much for watching.